So you want to make a server that has traffic. This is the bare bones minimum requirement of getting it all set up. You're going to want to get to 2 YouTube videos where they're going to offer a few things specifically for SRP that are really important for this setup. Yukio1X has a video called How to Make an Assetto Corsa Traffic Server! He accidentally shares with you the information on his AI parameters, and the AI parameters are they're all the values related to how the traffic spawns, and they're quite good. So I would say, if you go to his Discord, he charges like $20 to make a server. This video is going to be literally everything you need for free. So just know that the only thing you're taking from this guy is the AI params. Happens around 22 minutes in to the video. The second video you're going to want to search up is called Mirror World Labs, Assetto Corsa Online Traffic Server Tutorial Windows Nordschleife. So this is like straight up Sloshy's video, but he does provide the GitHub link. So in the GitHub, if you click that, you're going to see, if you've never been to a GitHub before, it might be confusing, but there's only 3 things we want to care about. One is this link to get here. And then finally, this run ASP.NET 6 runtime script from Microsoft. If you click this, this is from Microsoft. It is safe. You're going to need the run server apps, and you have to download the hosting bundle. If you click this, it'll have an exe. You're going to run it. You're going to install it, and then the software will work. So just think of, like, if you ever have to do this for any program ever, just think of like the .NET runtimes as like an external script that was used to make the software. And if you don't have it, then the software has like nothing to work off of. And then when we come back, you'll see under releases here, we're going to need the 0.0.50 release of the Assetto server zip. So if you get this zip, I've saved it under my documents folder, and I suggest you do this as well. If you go into documents right now, you can make a new folder in here called Assetto Corsa servers, make a folder called archives, and then add a folder for every time you make a new server. Just makes things so easy. So under my archives folder here, I have that Assetto server Windows x64 zip file I downloaded from GitHub. And if I open it, it'll have this content. These are actually exactly what Sloshy gives you, but this is like just the default parameters, nothing changed, whatever. You're going to want this each time you make a server with Assetto server, because when we make a server here, it'll run without it. But then when we're using this, there's a few contents from Content Manager that we need. So I'm going to preemptively make a server called test server. And then inside of test server, I drop the GitHub content in here. So now the server for GitHub is halfway finished. The other half is actually making a server that runs with the content that we want. So as a test, you're going to want to have Content Manager open, go into settings, Content Manager as a subcategory, appearance under the 3rd subcategory, and you're going to go to links and make sure that the server is checkboxed. Now you'll see at the top right-hand corner of the directories that server will show up, and yours may be blank if you had to do this for the first time. If not, if you've made servers before, you'll see like a bunch here. And I would suggest do not make a server based off of what is here. Do not, and I repeat that, do not make a server based off of what is here. You have to make the server from a blank template. So I'm going to pick Imola, and I'm going to pick for the cars to be just the basic Kunos cars. I'm just going to pick 2. So capacity, we're going to have at 2 right now. And I have 2 Kunos cars, Imola. And I'm going to make sure I clarify this for people who use a tunneling service like Hamachi or port forwarding. Port forwarding, you're using your router and your Wi-Fi, whatever, and you're opening it up so people can connect to you. You want to make sure that the make server public show on lobby is on. If you are tunneling, so that means you're using Hamachi, you're doing a LAN server, do not have this on. I'm going to turn it off because I use Hamachi. So I have the rules, conditions, sessions, advanced, and details all I'm going to want to do here is make sure that the basic weather is changed to weather effects and the session, qualification, and race is off. So now that all of this prep work is done for the server, I can click save. Remember to click save. If I click run, the server will run. If I go to drive online, you'll see my Assetto Corsa server has been loaded. Got the 2 cars and it's on Imola. So on this end, we're good. Click stop. From here, we're going to want to click the pack button. So now if I click pack, if you remember the archives folder I made, I'm going to save the archive in there. And there it is. This is all the content required for the server to run. And there's actually a acserver.exe that's included. So with the content that we got from Content Manager, we now want to add this to our test servers folder. So I'm going to get the test server folder, and I'm going to drag and drop the CFG, content system, and the AC server exe. I'm just going to just everything. Drop it in here. Now, that is the extra half. That is literally all that is needed for the server to run. And I can prove it because if I click assettoserver.exe and I run it, it'll run. On the video that Sloshy has, it'll say like server loaded, whatever at the end, the text. Don't worry about it. For me, it doesn't. But if I go into CM and I go to drive right now, you'll see that my Assetto server has loaded. And then I can prove it. As you can see, there's no play button next to server_02. It is running off of this. Now, what do I do from here? What happens if I want to add a modded track or a modded car? Simple. I'm going to have to change this to SRP. We're using that as our example. And I'm going to pick the overload layout. But now I want to add modded cars. So if I add a modded car, there's 2 kinds of modded cars that will be added. One is a car that has packed data. So as you can see, there's no extra buttons here on the list with the JZ-A80 Veris Supreme Toyota Supra. If I go to folder, this is what I'm referring to. There is a data.acd. If I add a car, like the 20B RX-7, it will not have packed data, and this will cause some issues. You see, packed data is basically data that cannot be touched. You have to physically unpack it, and then you have to change the files if you're cheating, and then you have to pack it again. And then the server will just compare. It will do a checksum compare. Checksum as in, you know, do you equal 1? If you have a 0 and you don't equal 1, you can't join the server. And this is the issue with my modded car that has a data folder, and it doesn't actually have the ability for me to pack the data. As you can see here, a button will show up for cars that have unpacked data, but because this is a encrypted car, or it's unencrypted or whatever, it won't allow me. This modded car won't. So what happens to me? Is this the end of the world? No, it's not. If I go back to main, let's change the capacity to 4, and then I click save. If I run the server now, this will work. But in some cases, trying to connect to the server for friends may not work, in which case you're going to want to have to disable the integrity verification, which is not recommended. I'm going to stop the server, I'm going to click save, and I'm going to run it again. So now it's not going to do a checksum, it's not going to do a whatever. You can actually modify the files and cheat if you wanted to. We have faith you're not going to do that. And now the server will run. But what happens to my modded server with traffic? This is how you're going to do this. You have to make sure disable integrity verification is off. It has to be. We have to manually enable it later. Now we pack it. We're going to pack the server, and we're just going to pack it here. And as you can see, the data is not encrypted. That's fine. Just click yes and click OK. Now, it won't actually make the archive because, again, like I mentioned, it doesn't have a packed data. So a .acd file. So what we need to do is just simply go to the folder. And you see these 2 files? The entry list ini and the server CFG ini. These are actually all that we need to get. Because under the entry list ini, the 2 extra cars we added that are modded, one with packed data, one without packed data, has been added successfully. Under server CFG ini, they have been added as well. But there is a catch. The one thing that you need to change when you're in this is the disable checksums. Make sure that this is 1. Click Control S. Make sure that things like max clients is at 4, and this should be good. So now, if I go to my test server, all I simply need to do to add in the modded cars in a case where I can't pack the data, this is the worst fucking case scenario. I go to CFG, sorry, and I drag and drop these in here and I replace. So now the modded cars are added, but not really. There's a few things in here that are missing. If I go to content and cars, look at that. These cars are completely different and the track is completely different. But the thing is, these are just general folders, as in it will look if it exists, and then it will check the data of the track and all that stuff, etc. So what we need to do is if I go all the way to my Assetto Corsa folder, you will have a server folder in here automatically. Like you don't need to download the SDK, you don't need to download it from Steam. Like you always have this. You will always have this, but it's very limited. Only thing you need to do is click update server content. And then it'll give you an error or whatever. You can click OK. But all that this is doing is if I go into content, this looks very scarily familiar. And it's just because all that it's looking for is what the fuck you have. So in my case, I have 2 cars that have been added. The Veris Supra and then also the 20B. So I just need to find those folders. So this is the Paris Toyota Supra A80 1997 Veris. I just need to copy this and add it in. Even though this has packed data, and I can show you here, that's the packed data to do the checksum. But now I need to add the 20B, which is the one with the non-packed data. Just got to copy the folder and drag and drop. Now, there's a few extra steps to get the server to run consistently, and that is to make sure that a few of the other parameters are changed. So under my server that I made that definitely runs, the server CFG ini, all you need to make sure in here is that the max clients is set and the cars is set. And once they are, as well as the CM checksum is disabled the checksums, you're going to have to now finally look into the extra CFG. So I'm going to open this up in Notepad. So this CFG file has a few things in here that we need to change in order for the server to run and in order for you to not have to get the checksum errors. So if I right click this CFG, this is the one for my test server. So the test server is on the left and on the right is the server that works. You will see that there's a few things I have changed and they have to change also on the server here for it to work. And one of them is this, the ignore configuration errors. There's 3 of 4 that need to change. One of them is going to be the missing car checksums. The reason why this needs to be true is because you're not running off of a data.acd file. So you just want to make sure that you're telling the server, screw this. Missing track parameters. In some cases, you can keep this off, but for safety measure, if you're doing this with just friends, make sure it's on true. And then for the wrong server details, in some cases, the details that you write or whatever is wrong, or characters, special characters, things like that could mess up content manager or mess up CSP or mess up Assetto server. So just keep that true. Then from here, that's it. Those are the only things that you need to change. Now that we've done it, let's see if it runs. So I'm going to click save. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this. And now on my test server, what we have successfully done is added the cars, changed the CFG to allow different kinds of parameters, but tracks, we also need to add that too. So let's go back to Assetto Corsa, go back to server, content, tracks, and then we just look for SRP, Shuto Revival Project Beta. We're just going to copy this and paste it. So now it's going to find it. And now if I go into the test server folder, like the main one with the Assetto server.exe, it'll run. And then I can go here, go to content, go to drive, online, boom, look at that. 4 cars like I asked, and also the track has been changed. And you know what? Let's join it. Now, in the meantime, there's a few things that I've learned in the span of a day that you can do to a server. besides just doing the basic command of changing time. There's the ability for you to add dynamic weather that changes by chance, has its own transition time. You're also able to have it so that what's it called? You can also teleport places, and that's actually all done through the plugins that are provided on two, not on two. It's actually just one on one extra link. So I will actually be showing that right now as this is loading. So that link is assettoserver.org. So assettoserver.org is actually where the GitHub is from. It's this. So on assettoserver.org, if I go into docs, it'll give you a full introduction, an introduction to the plugins and how they work. It'll also teach you about AI splines. And then it will also show you a few extra things, miscellaneous and admin commands and banning players, setting up the weather types, headlights for players. All this stuff will all be here. So what we want is to read through this, because this will show, this will literally just show you everything and how they work. Some of these have demos and show you a video, some don't. But just know that all of this is here. So if you want to do this, they're all going to be done in the extra_cfg.yml file, which is in that folder for your server. But as you can see here, I'm in this car. I can drive into server. I'm working, and that's great. Now, what about, let's exit this now. Leave. What about AI? So again, like I mentioned, the first video by Yukio1x, how to make an Assetto Corsa server, traffic server, exclamation mark. He has the AI params, which are just, honestly, I'm going to let you guys do that. I'm not going to go through it again. But in that CFG, the server's extra CFG, what we want from here to change is all those numbers under AI params. These numbers will be lower, some of them will be bigger or whatever, but changing these will make the AI traffic like load tight and all that stuff. But we have to enable it. So enable AI. It should be true. My bad. And now that this is true, actually, let's just make sure that that's the right enable false. Good. Yeah, it should be true. So now that the AI traffic is true or enabled, we want to go to the entry list. And this is what I've learned. If you set the AI to auto, so it'll be AI in full caps equals auto. What it will do is that it will actually just say, hey, guess what? If no one's driving this car, then it's an AI car. No. So you can have this dynamic, as in you can have a full ass list of cars that aren't traffic. And, you know, once you start driving and nobody else is there, it will just load them as traffic. So that's all auto. If you want cars to be specifically traffic, like let's have, what's it called? Let's have like the regular Abarth. Just type in fixed. So now what will happen is the ones that are fixed, you cannot pick. And let's go to the server. Let's actually close it too. So if I do all those changes and I run the server, I want to make sure that the entry list, actually just change these back. I changed all this while the server was running. So that was my mistake. Run it again. Okay, let's look at the logs. Let's see what it's saying. Unhandled exception, no AI folder found. Yeah. I wonder why, huh? It's because we don't actually have the AI folder. Now, if you remember Sloshy's video, we actually need that AI folder in here. So that's actually my bad. So let's go into archives and it's a folder back, Sloshy's. We just need this AI folder. And that's going to be in the overload layout. There you go. So now that the track has AI, it should work. So now if I go into CFG, I actually didn't need to change what I did. So let's have these AI as auto, Abarth AI as fixed, and then the other two as auto. Copy this. So remember, all that the auto parameter does is make it so that, hey, if nobody's driving the cars after some time, we'll just load them ourselves and the AI will drive them. Okay, let's see what it says. This time, no AI folder, fast lane. Still trying to look for. Ooh, it's not in the parent folder. That's why. I put it in the wrong one. So we don't want the AI to be in that folder, like the overload layout specifically. We actually want this to be outside. There we go. Now it should run. Yeah, reading the logs, it's hecka helpful. It's actually been what I've been using to debug. So as you can see here, now it's running, it's loading the AI spline, all this stuff, it's done. So now if I go into the server, close, refresh, you'll see what I said was, hey, the SA is the stock car that I want to be traffic. It's traffic. And then these cars here are auto. So if I pick the Magic RX-7, I join the server, the other 3 cars will spawn. And they will spawn in. These are all the default settings, though. They will all spawn in, especially because there's nobody driving them right now. And if I go back here, you'll see that they still show up. They will still show up, even though they are not driven, even though they're driven by AI, they will still show up here. And it will basically, all that it will do is it'll boot the AI out, and it'll make the car free for the player that wants to join in with that car. But besides that, that is everything. That is all the necessary steps that I believe I covered is, besides like the weather voting and all that stuff, those are all plugins that are on that website, assettoserver.org. But for just the basic, like getting servers that have traffic, getting servers with traffic that can be, auto switched or auto swapped, this is how you do it. So now if I go in here and I drive, I'm going to go and see up ahead. Those are the cars. I'm driving on controller and it feels so weird. There it is. Look at that. There's the SASAs and then the tuned one. And then also it's my buddy, the Virus, bro. The Varese. He's right there. And now if I go into like the Assetto Content Manager and I see what it looks like there, which it should open, it's not, but basically if I were to open up Assetto Corsa's Content Manager, the traffic cars will actually just completely disconnect and somebody can drive the other 2 cars because I set them as auto. And as you can see here, that guy is just like waiting for me. But yeah, there it is. Freaking game works. And there's traffic now. And it's so much better than like the way that the traffic was done on like if you just see like the traffic AI splines for like doing a track day or whatever, like on race department, because these traffic will actually slow down for you and you can set the actual distance for that. You can set that all up on the file, but everything's here. It's all working. So that should be it. It was a lot longer than I thought it would be, but I covered literally everything. So yeah, if you see like all of these, don't worry about that. But anyways, that's how you do it. That's how you set up the server. So if you're having crashes, it's probably a checksum error. If you can't connect to it, it's probably that. And then as for shaders patch, I am using the previews right now. So there's no telling what other bugs could actually show up because there's been times where I'm trying to connect to my own server. It works perfectly fine. And then like a bug will show up where it says, try changing your CSP, try changing the car on the track or whatever. But so far, so good. I haven't had any issues. So hopefully this was helpful as you do traffic with Assetto Corsa.